Congresswoman Karen Bass, a Democrat on the House Budget Committee. Congresswoman, it's a pleasure to have you on again.
Thanks for having me on, Tamron.
Absolutely. We know the president, as mentioned, is in Michigan. I want to play what Senator Dick Durbin just recently said on entitlements in that part of the conversation of reform. Let me play it.
I do believe there should be means testing, and those of us with a higher income and retirement should pay more. That could be part of the solution. But when you talk about raising the Medicare eligibility age, there's one key question. What happens to that early retiree? What about that gap in coverage between their workplace and Medicare?
What are your concerns regarding entitlement reform?
Well, my main concern is that what I think is unacceptable is if we were to break the guarantee that the U.S. has had with the population for many, many decades, and that is after you hit a certain age, your health care will be covered. And so my concern is if we were to just across the board raise the age, you know, life expectancy, depending on where you're talking about, is different in different ages. And so I would agree with Senator Durbin that there's definitely room to look at means testing in terms of people who are the most wealthy, but as he pointed out, that gap between when you would qualify with early retirees, I think is a real big issue.
We have some new polling out, and we discussed it at the top of the hour, but I want to get your reaction to some of it. When people were asking this Politico battleground state poll, if reducing Medicare for wealthy seniors, do they favor it or not? 51% say they do favor it. Raising Social Security age, nearly 2/3 oppose that idea. Across the board cuts, 75% favored the idea of doing that. What do you make of at least some of the reaction? And again, this is a snapshot. We have to factor in many other things when discussing this, but this one snapshot here.
Well, I think that you said that people agreed to across-the-board cuts. I think what happens there is that that's easy to say in the abstract, but then when you were talking about specific programs, it weighs differently. And so I definitely think there's always room to look for savings, but I do worry when you come to just a few days left at the end of the year to make drastic reforms in this context. What I think is going to happen and what I think should happen is the House needs to take up the Senate bill that will maintain tax breaks for 98% of the U.S. public and 97% of small businesses. That's the business we need to get done before the end of the year, and then talk about changes and other savings that we can do next year and make a strong commitment to do that.
Congresswoman Bass, it's a great pleasure having you on again. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Still ahead.